If you've been keeping up with the changes that we made to Tablet Weaving Draft Designer this Christmas, you may have noticed that it can now produce designs for a technique called idling pack, which you might also know as alternating pack, alternating shed, or Anglo-Saxon technique. And it produces bands like this one. This is a free design you can find up on my website. It's called Lattice, and it's woven in the idling pack structure. Now, this structure, we have two archaeological examples that I know of. The first, which was found in Cambridge in the UK. It was originally thought to be Anglo-Saxon, but has later been redated to late medieval. And that's where the Anglo-Saxon technique moniker comes from. There's also a second piece, which is from Felixstowe, which is also in the UK. And it's believed that that one is dated to around 14th to 15th century. And that's based on the buckle that it's associated with. Now, both of these bands are absolutely tiny scraps. I've worked with the Cambridge piece myself in person, and I don't know how well you can judge the size of my thumbnail, but it's about that big. It is truly a tiny, tiny fragment. But it gives us access to a whole different structure for tablet weaving. And this structure it's an odd one. It breaks a lot of the usual rules because only half of the tablets are turning on each row. Now, this is the beginning of the lattice band. As you can see, we've got quite a jumble of threads there, even though I had threaded all of the tablets correctly at the beginning. That's because I wasn't pulling the weft in very tightly. But the tighter it gets, the narrower the band gets, the clearer the design gets. If I turn it sideways, you can see that it's quite a thick band. And this is double knit, DK weight knitting wool. It would usually produce a band about half the thickness of this. And that's another one of the key features of idling pack. If I bring this a little closer, you might be able to see the individual threads in the band. There's a good one. Now, the tighter you pull the weft, the more upright or vertical those threads become. Usually in tablet weaving, we've got threads sitting on the diagonal, either this way or this way. But because of how tight you need to pull the weft in, they change position and become almost vertical. And instead of me just talking about this, let's jump across to a loom and I'll show you how I go about weaving one of these bands. Now, this is the sample band I wove as we were working out how to emulate this technique using Tablet Weaving Draft Designer. It's just a simple diagonal line in black, white and red. Now the threads, they do look quite zigzaggy because I'm not pulling the weft tight enough on this band to get them to compact together and become almost upright. And that's intentional because I wanted to be able to see exactly what the threads were doing so we could try and put that in to the app. Now I've separated out the tablets into two packs, alternating. So I've got tablet 1, tablet 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, half in each pack. And you'll notice that I've got a tablet here in the pack closest to me and a tablet here in the pack furthest away from me. And that's quite important. That tells me which pack I need to turn, because my brain very, very much wants to turn this pack backwards, this pack forwards, pass the weft through and continue on. That's not what we're doing. half of these tablets are going to be idling, not doing anything. So let's see. I'm going to tighten up the weft from the previous pick. Now, my shuttle is on the left here, so that means that I need to turn the pack that has the selvage tablet, the one on the very edge, on this side. So I'll go ahead and turn that, leaving this pack entirely still, or well, not turning, and then find the shed, pass it through. Okay, now my shuttle is on this side, so I need to turn the group of tablets that have the selvage tablet on this side. I'll go ahead and do that. Let's pass it through. Now, let's just weave for a little while and you can see what it looks like. Okay, so we've got our nice little zigzaggy line moving across the band, and we've got our little spots of weft along the edge. Now with this technique, it's really useful to have a large shed because only half of the tablets are turning. I don't want to reintegrate the two packs, so push them all the way back together in order to clear the shed. So I'm working with larger tablets than I usually do, so that I've got a wider shed and it's easier to get a clear shed. This technique is one of the ones that really struggles with the pattern and the design if you haven't got a clear shed when you pass the shuttle through, because you'll be accidentally jumping over or going under threads that you shouldn't be. And if we have an accidental floating thread on the top of the band, it's going to float across quite a lot of picks of weft, and it'll be very visible. But now that I've shown you this, let's jump across to Tablet Weaving Draft Designer and I can show you what this looks like digitally. So when we want to set up a draft in Tablet Weaving Draft Designer to deal with idling packs, the first thing to do is to fill in the number of tablets. I'm going to go for 10, and I'll go for 10 picks or 10 rows as well. So that gives us a turning diagram, this top grid here, with 10 rows and 10 columns. Each column is for one tablet, and each row is for one row of weaving. Now at the moment I haven't got the idling tool engaged, so I'll go down to the display section, open that up. I'll select idling, so that's the show idling tool here, and oops, turn that back on. That shows me that all of these tablets are currently twining, so that means that they're going to be turning on every row, every pick. But before we can get started, let's throw in some colours so we can see a little bit of what this pattern's going to look like. So I'll open up the palette tool for that. Now at the moment all of my threads are black, but if you remember the example band I was showing you before, that's not the case. So let's throw some white and some red. I do that by simply selecting the colour in the palette and then tapping on the threads that I want to change the colour of. So let's go ahead and do that, going all the way through. There we go. Now I also need to change the threading direction of some of these tablets so that the threads lean in the opposite direction. And I can do that by tapping on the Z below the tablet in the threading diagram. And the first one is going to be Z, second one will be S, and then alternating across. If I make a mistake, I can simply tap on the S to turn it back to a Z. Okay, so this is all set up and ready to go except for the idling. And I can put that in by tapping on the T's for twining to change them to odd pack or even pack. If I tap on it once, it changes to O for odd. That means that that tablet in forwards turns will turn on odd numbered rows. And I'm going to tap it again. And this is just going to change T's into O's and E's. I'm going to go all the way across, tapping on them, to alternate them. There we go. So this has given us some blank squares at the bottom on the first row, and that shows that that tablet is idling. It's going to sit around not doing anything, while the other tablets, the ones from the odd numbered pack, are going to be turning because this is an odd row. And that's shown by the diagonal oval in that square. And then we go up to the second pick. We've got diagonal ovals for the even pack. That means that those tablets are turning. And we've got upright ovals for the odd pack. That means that those tablets are idling. And that's the same going across. And then going into pick 3, we're alternating again. So the even pack are idling and the odd pack are turning. We decided to set it up with blank squares for the first pick to make it absolutely clear that those tablets are not turning on the first pick. If you get out of sequence with this type of weaving, especially on the first pick, it can alter the design and make everything else after that first pick not quite what you were intending. So it's important to set up the first pick the right way. One of the downsides of this technique is that I'm always turning the tablets in the same direction. So I'm going to get a build-up of twist behind the tablets pretty quickly. Now I could take the warp off the loom, comb out that twist. I could use warp weights, add one to the threads for each tablet. I could use fishing swivels, add one to the threads for each tablet. But I prefer with this one to reverse the turning direction of the tablets, because this technique becomes, well, it really struggles with warps that don't have an even tension across them. So if I was to untie and then retie everything, I'm not going to get the tension exactly the same as it was before. It's just not going to happen. So that would give me weird little lumps on the surface here. And some of the threads would be more prominent than others, and the design would be interrupted. So I have just turned this set of tablets here, the ones closest to me. So I will pass the weft back through. Now, in order to turn backwards, I'm going to have to do the opposite of what I was doing before. So instead of going to the other pack and turning them, I need to turn the same pack again. But that will give me a point where I don't have a selvage tablet turning just as I'm passing the weft through from that side. If I show you that, when I turn this pack backwards, there is no selvage tablet in this pack. So this tablet here isn't twining, isn't turning. So when I pull the weft through, it's just going to pull straight through. And I'll end up with a bunch of threads twisted together at the edge of the band, but not joined onto it. It's not what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to undo that quickly. And I'll show you a tip that I use. So instead of passing the shuttle through for the last forward peg, I'm going to make a loop out of my weft. And I'm going to pull the loop through because I'm changing the direction I'm putting the shuttle through the shed. So turn the tablets. Shuttle goes through as usual from the side that has the selvage tablet. I'll tighten this up. And we'll keep going. I'm leaving this loop because if I was to pull on it from this side, it'll just pull through and disappear, which is not what I'm looking for. Keep going. Now, this is one of those times where if you're not concentrating, your hands might go back to what they were doing before. So if you want, you could have a piece of paper next to you with F on one side, B on the other. Just flip it over so that B is showing to remind yourself that you're now turning everything backwards, which I will continue doing. We are getting some fairly long floating threads across the band. That's because some of the tablets have been idled twice. When we turn this group of tablets forwards past the weft, then turn them backwards, this group of tablets had to stay still twice in a row. That's where our long floats have come from. Now I'm getting a little bit further away from the point where I pulled that loop of weft through. To deal with this leftover loop, I'll cut it and then thread each end onto a needle and just pass it through the band to hide it. If I was to cut it off flush with the band, then these edge threads would no longer be caught by the weft and we'd get a little bit of loose warp at the edge, and that gives it a weak spot. I'd rather not have that. Next, I will show you what it looks like in Tablet Weaving Draft Designer when we put in a reversal point. To change the turning direction of the tablets, we can simply click on them or click on the squares representing their turning. But first I'm going to increase the size of this turn-in diagram. It gives a bit more space to work with. So I've altered the pick number and changed it to 20. Now to change the turning direction of the tablets, I'm going to tap on the squares containing the threads going across. And that's showing that those tablets were turning forwards and now they're turning backwards. So for, say, tablet number 1, which was in the even numbered pack, turning forwards on even numbered rows, it's now going to turn backwards on odd numbered rows, and vice versa for the odd pack. They were turning forwards on odd rows, now they're going to turn backwards on even rows. And that means that when we change the turning direction, the even pack, because of where I've put the reversal, the even pack will turn forwards and then on the next row backwards, while the odd pack, they were idling, they're going to idle a second time and then turn backwards. So we get this extra long floating thread across the reversal point, and we saw that in the band that I showed you. And I can throw in another reversal point. I don't know, let's put one here. So in this one, the even pack are the ones doing a double idle, and the odd pack are the ones doing a turn and then on the next one another turn. And once you change them backwards, change them back to turning forwards, the odd pack are going to be turning forwards on odd rows, and the even pack will be turning forwards on even rows again. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I really hope that you give this structure a try. It's a fun one, and I'd love to see more bands in this structure because it's one of my favorites.